Okay, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining our webinar this morning with Rod Johnson of the SBA. And thank you for our sponsors, the Maryland Women Business Center and Aaronson's. And Rod, we all know you. You've been a constant for this chamber and my go-to person for over 2 years now. And I thank you for this relationship and to be here for our members and get their questions answered. So on that note, I'm going to turn it over to you. And like I said, everybody, if you have any questions, put them in the chat and we will address them.
All right, so you have the slide presentation up. So good morning, everyone. My name is Rod Johnson. I'm with the U.S. Small Business Administration, Washington Metropolitan District Office, where we cover Montgomery and Prince George's counties, all of Northern Virginia, and Washington, D.C. Now, before we actually get into the presentation, I'm going to give you Rod's editorial, okay? So there are many of your businesses out there that are looking for money, okay, to grow and sustain your businesses. Now, I'm going to mention the Debt Relief Act. I'm just going to start out with the Debt Relief Act because many people have not heard about the Debt Relief Act and what's going on under that Debt Relief Act. So the first thing is, if you already have an existing SBA loan with your bank, then you're supposed to be automatically enrolled in debt relief, meaning you will get 3 months of your principal and interest payments on your 7A, 504, or SBA microloan. The payments will come from the SBA to the bank on your behalf. Again, if you already have an existing 7A, 504, or microloan, the SBA will be making payments on your behalf, okay, for those loans. Secondly, excuse me, the SBA has increased the guarantee on the 7A program and the SBA Express program. So many of you already know, generally the SBA Express only goes up to $350,000. Now it goes up to $1 million. Secondly, when the SBA Express was $350,000 maximum, the SBA guarantee was 50%. Now it is 75% for the SBA Express loan, okay? Then thirdly, for the Signature 7A program, as you all know, that goes up to $5 million. Typically the banks get a 75% guarantee. Well, hold on to your hats. Now the SBA will give the banks a 90% guarantee. 90%, okay? Now, if it's a new 504, 7A, or microloan, the SBA will make the first 6 months of principal and interest payments on those new loans, okay? Which I think is fantastic. Higher guarantee amount on both loans, okay? And you get debt relief for existing and for new loans. Also, as the borrower, as you know, there are guarantee fees to up to 3.5%. Waived. Those fees are now waived. No SBA fees to the borrowers, okay? Now, all the banks know this because well, they should know. It's in their mailboxes this morning, okay? I sent them out the procedural notices. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I have to kind of leave earlier today to go over that with some of the banks, okay? So I want to just give you some positive news that there is money out there. There's debt relief. The banks have incentive to make loans to businesses, besides what we're going to talk about this morning, PPP and EIDL, which is here to help you sustain your businesses, okay? Now, where can you get assistance? All the WBCs, okay? SCORE, your SBDCs, okay? Around the DMV, the chambers, businesses, you all have a lot of assistance to help you fill out applications, whether it's for forgiveness, whether it's for PPP, EIDL, or the SBA business development programs. So there's a lot of resources out there for you. And Morgan, toward the end, is going to talk about, right, Morgan, what the WBCs can do? All right, so she's going to talk about that toward the end, okay? But this slide is just letting you know SCORE is one of the resources that you can use. So go ahead to the next slide, please. All right, so normally Matt Evans is my partner in crime. He's with SCORE, he's a CPA, and he works with a lot of businesses throughout the area. My role as a lender relations specialist really is to just burst open the vault doors of the banks to make sure that they are lending you money to grow and sustain their businesses. I was a commercial lender for over 30 years, primarily in middle market and large corporate lending. But I'd say probably over the last 10 years, I've been doing small business lending. So next slide, and let's get right into it. All right, PPP 2.0, who qualifies? Okay, so let's talk about the second draw. Businesses and nonprofits with 300 or fewer employees can borrow up to $2 million, provided you can demonstrate a 25% or greater decline in your gross revenues, right? During any one quarterly period, 2020 compared to 2019. So here's our example. Excuse me, we'll pick September 30, 2019 versus September 30 of 2020. Your income statement needs to show a 25% decline. Now, here's the other nuance. So before you submit this to your bank, if you're the majority owner of the company, you need to sign and date that form, okay? So the rule says, and it's in tiny print, that if you don't get audited financial statements, right, from your CPAs, whether or not your CPA is providing compilations or reviewed, you still have to sign off, okay, and date those financial statements when you get them to the bank, all right? Now, PPP 1.0 is still open. So if you have an existing PPP loan, then you must have spent the money before obtaining the PPP 2.0. Some companies have had a hard time actually spending the money. I'm just advising that you go ahead and bonus the money, call it hazard pay, to your employees, okay? Now, this is not a must, but the banks may want you to submit PPP 1.0 for loan forgiveness before the second draw. Again, it's not a must, but they may require that of you, okay? So make sure you are ready for the new forgiveness application. So what's the new forgiveness application? What they're talking about there is there's a new 3508 form that's 150,000 and below. You may recall the 3508S, or short form, that came out about 6 weeks ago was only up to 50. Now it is up to 150,000. Why? Because 87% of the $525 billion in PPP money put out there as of August 10th, 2020, 87% of those loans were 150,000 and below, okay? So it made sense to change the short form to 150,000, increasing it from 50 to 150,000. The form is very easy to complete. It's 3 pages. The last 2 pages are nothing more than the instructions on how to fill out the top page, okay? And actually, it shouldn't take you any more than 10 minutes to complete. But again, if you need help, there are all sorts of resources out there to assist you. Now, the first draw, you didn't participate the first time in PPP, so now here's your chance, all right? And so they're calling it the first draw. If you've never received a PPP, then you can apply for the current PPP amount, but under the original rules. I like this, okay? So instead of $2 million, which is capped for the second draw, if you didn't participate the first time, as long as you don't have more than 500 employees, you can actually get up to $10 million, okay? Just like the original, $10 million instead of the 2 million like it is in the second draw. All right, next slide, please. All right, so the loan amount is the same calculation as PPP 1.0. So it's 2.5 times, right, your monthly average payroll in 2019 or 2020. And for you self-employed, single member LLC, sole proprietorships, 1099s, okay? It's going to be, look at line 31 on your Schedule C. You're going to divide that net profit number by 12 times 2.5, right, to arrive at your number, okay? So that's what you're looking at. You can choose the higher of the two calculations. Use the same lender. We advise you to use the same lender, okay, for the second draw, okay? They know you, and it probably reduces the documentation requirement. Now, there's a slightly expanded payroll cost. So now you have you have to be a U.S. resident up to $100,000 for the employer's share of insurance, which includes, right, health, dental, vision, disability, and life. And as you see here at the bottom of the slide with the new PPP 2.0, you see the disability and life, okay? That's in the calculation, all right? And so you have a good example, you know, number of employees, 3, 5, or 6, and you can actually see the calculation there, and it's in red. Okay, go ahead, next slide, please. All right, so there's a difference if you have a NAICS code that begins with 72, the loan amount is 3.5 times, okay? And that's for your restaurants, primarily your restaurants and hospitality industry, because they've been hit the hardest during this pandemic. So it was decided that the loan amount would be 3.5 times instead of 2.5 times. Very easy calculation. Next slide, please. So now you have the non-payroll expense expanded for PPP 2.0. So one is the property damage. So for business property damage that was a result of looting or vandalism or public disturbance, like we've had here, right, downtown, for whatever the insurance doesn't cover, then whatever you pay out of pocket or you use the PP, you can now use the PPP funds to cover whatever the insurance company does not cover, okay? Software. Okay, so you can now include software as part of that 40% for expenses, okay? So for things like payroll, accounting software, CRM, inventory tracking, you can now use PPP money for that. For worker protection, right? So renovations, new drive-through, new barriers, new outdoor space, sneeze guards, deep cleaning, COVID testing, okay? Mask, you can now use PPP money for these expenses, supply expenses, you know, for restocking and products and inventory, okay? You can use PPP money for that. Now, here's something that you should really note. If you submitted your PPP-1 loan for forgiveness, you cannot go back and change the expenses, okay? You cannot go back if you've already submitted for your PPP 1.0 for forgiveness, right? Because banks must begin processing the new PPP 2.0 applications. However, if you have not submitted for forgiveness, you can go back and use funds retroactively for the new qualified expenses, okay? So frankly, if you're having a hard time using that money, then go back and capture now these 4 new expense categories, okay? But only if you haven't already applied for forgiveness. All right, next slide, please. All right, now, improvements for forgiveness. You heard me mention for loans of $150,000 or less, there is a new one-pager. I said it was 3. Yes, it is a one-pager, but really it's 2 pages attached to that that gives you the instructions, okay? But this doesn't mean that you don't need to maintain documentation. As you've heard me say on here before, documentation, documentation, documentation is the key, right? For getting 100% forgiveness. All right, as a part of that documentation now, you need to show the 25% quarterly drop in gross revenues. The ILA advance will not be deducted from your forgiveness amount. That's key. So, because that was happening before. Flexible end date. Loan coverage period can end on any of the date after the loan origination between 8 and 24 weeks. All right. I'm assuming that most of you are going to go with the 24 weeks. Okay. And it's been, well, you went with the 24 weeks, and the loan coverage period has been extended to March 31st, 2021. Okay. Tax clarification. Forgiveness of loan is not reportable as taxable income. It was before this act was enacted. And you can deduct the expenses paid that was used where you use PPP money, okay? So that also, before this act, wasn't the case. So now Congress has actually closed those two issues. All right, next slide, please. So we already know about the eligibility changes in documentation, pretty much, but it has been expanded a little bit for eligibility. So now your newspapers, TV, radio, public broadcasters, your destination marketing organizations, your 501c6s can now be eligible to get money. Now, here's the thing about bankruptcy, because I got a question about this. Businesses before bankruptcy court can potentially obtain a first draw, okay? But that loan must be elevated in relation to the other outstanding claims. So basically, the PPP loan takes first priority. That's the long and the short of it, okay? But the business should not be permanently shut down. So basically, if you're going through a Chapter 11, you can get a first draw PPP, okay? Now, we already know, you see the chart here below, but we already know that, you need to provide for 150,000 or less. You need to provide financial, bank statements, sales reports, and be able to show the 25% drop in revenues. Typically, you're going to provide the payroll reports, right? The 941s and 940, or the Schedule C, right? For over 150,000, you got to provide the financials, bank statements, sales reports. It's the same thing. And of course, provide payroll reports, okay? So next slide, please. The documentation to me is pretty simple. Just make sure you have your receipts, okay? Your bank statements and canceled checks to be able to show how the money was used, okay? Now, there are targeted loans under this. First come, first served lending practices under both the PPP and EIDL prevented businesses and underserved communities from obtaining these loans in PPP 1.0. So to correct the issue, there were two set-asides. Businesses with 10 or fewer employees located in mid to low income areas who never received a PPP loan, there have been $15 billion set aside, okay? Businesses with 10 or fewer employees located in mid to low income areas who did get a PPP loan and now want a second draw, $25 billion has been set aside. So that's a total of $40 billion that has been set aside, whether you never received the PPP or you did receive a PPP, okay? Out of the 284 billion, basically 40 billion has been set aside, okay, for low and moderate income areas where your business is located. The maximum loan amount is $250,000. The SBA is going to do its due diligence and ask for verification of your identity before issuing the grant. Okay, this is a grant. It's not a loan, it's a grant. Okay, now your CDFIs, your microloan intermediaries, your small credit unions and community banks are the ones that are participating in this, okay? So next slide, please. And as that's happening, for all the forms and all the information that you need about this PPP 2.0, just go to sba.gov/PPP. All the forms, the regs, everything is out there, okay? And it's in decent order where you can just click and pull down whatever it is that you need, okay? This is the loan application, and you can see, let's go down to see example, bottom of, yes, let's go to the example, and you can see the average monthly payroll is $25,633. It's a regular business, so you multiply that by 2.5, and you can see that, you know, the 64,082 represents that 2.5 times. I think my math is right on this slide, okay? So you can see how easy it is. And then at the top, you know, you check the box of what you are, the sole proprietor, C Corp, whatever it is, the business name, the NAICS code. I mean, you can see that this is really a pretty simple form to complete, okay? Now at the bottom, it says first draw application, second draw application. But again, you'll see these when you go to sba.gov/PPP. Next slide, please. Now, here's some of the lenders, okay, for loans under 150,000. Bank of America, Cabbage, PNC, all right? And some of the fintechs. Here are the links for some of the fintechs, Lendio, On Deck, you know, the other fintechs that are participating. If you don't have a bank, you also see the link for that, a list of SBA lenders that are participating in the PPP program. So again, use this slide presentation as your guide because there's a lot of information on here that will help you get the documents that you need. All right, next slide, please. Now, the EIDL loan program. And before I go to EIDL, just keep in mind that we started out with $284 billion. In the first week, $5 billion is already approved and on the street. I think sometime today, I will receive how much additional money was put out on the street last week. So my point is, this money is going fast. I'm not sure that it's going to last until March 31st. So if you haven't applied for your first or second round, please get your documentation together so that you can participate in this round, okay? And looking at President Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus package, I've been trying to find, and if someone is on here later on that can tell me, they may know more, I haven't seen any funds yet that are really dedicated toward extending more money for the PPP or EIDL program. So the point is, hurry up and apply for the money that's left, okay, in this new round. All right, so EIDL. We know that it's been extended till December 31st of this year. If you get an EIDL loan over $25,000, and remember, the maximum amount is $150,000. But if you get a loan over 25, then you're going to, the SBA will take a blanket lien on the business assets. The loan payments are deferred for 12 months, but interest is accruing. Of course, there's no prepayment penalties for prepayment. Typically, you're going to take 2.5 times the gross profit for the loan amount, and businesses with existing EIDLs may request an increase using this email address, but you have to put increase in the subject line. And of course, you're going to put your current EIDL number in the body of the email so that they can, you know, just pull up your information very quickly and make a determination, okay? Remember, this is a loan. It's not a grant. It's not a grant, and it's not a forgivable loan. So it is a 30-year loan with 3.75% interest. If you're a nonprofit, it's 2.75. I've already mentioned it's not a forgivable loan. Now, unlike PPP, where it's 60-40, 60 for payroll, 40 for expenses, you don't have those restrictions like you do for PPP. EIDL is not like that at all, okay? So of course you can use it for license, payroll, utilities, office cleaning, maintenance, all of those things, okay? And the business must be located in the USA with less than 500 employees and needs operating funds to offset, of course, the negative impact of EIDL. Now, here's what's important. If you already applied for EIDL, the advance is not available. It is only available on an emergency basis and for targeted businesses, which I think on the next slide it'll talk about. So go ahead to the next slide. All right, so here's how you qualify, right? EIDL loan grants for low-income communities. This is what they mean when they say the targeted EIDL. So 1, your business must be located in a census tract where 20% or more of the population lives in poverty, or 2, the median family income is 80% or less of the statewide or metro-wide area median family income. So there's a link, you put your address in, and you'll find out if you fall into the proper census tract. 2, unlike PPP, you have to show a 30% drop in gross revenues, okay? A 30%. So again, you're going to have to give them an income statement to show the 30% drop. Now, for the grant, $10,000 grant, the SBA will issue a maximum amount of $10,000 to the applicant. It is forgivable and does not have to be paid back. But again, this is for low-income communities. And out of the 5,600-page bill, go to section 331. But actually it starts in section just 300 when you want to read the whole entire piece as it relates to PPP and EIDL. It starts in section 300. But for this particular topic, it's in section 331. You can tell I've done a lot of nighttime reading. Next page, please. So the emergency EIDL loan grant. So here you are, businesses not in low-income communities may be eligible for an emergency EIDL grant if you received an EIDL loan but never received the EIDL grant. And 2, you qualify for EIDL, but you never applied for either the loan or the grant, okay? So for you first timers, go ahead and apply, okay? Now, the SBA will verify your information, okay? And your application must be, of course, complete and accurate to qualify for the grant. Now, once the SBA verifies you, they do have up to 21 days to make payments under this program. So once you receive the email that says you qualify, then don't expect the money in 2 days. They have up to 21 days to ACH the money into your account. There's been $20 billion set aside for this, okay? So that money is going to run out pretty quickly. So somewhere on here, it should say that actually the people from the Office of Disaster Assistance, and I'm looking for it, but I don't see it, but this is how it works. The Office of Disaster Assistance will be contacting those people who have already applied, right, for EIDL or have received it to let you know that you actually qualify for the grant, okay? So I just thought I would let you know that. So next slide, please. So this is what I was talking about earlier, the debt relief, okay? So most of us know what the microloans and 7A loans and 504 loan is. But at the bottom is where I pay attention. The SBA pays your loan payments for 3 months if you have an existing 7A, 504, or microloan. And if you get a new 7A, 504, or microloan, the SBA will pay 6 months of principal and interest payments on the new loan. And it's not taxable to you, okay? And remember, the loan had that the banks now have incentive. The 7A loan now gives the bank a 90% guarantee For the SBA Express, which is a subset of the 7A loan, they now have a 75% guarantee, and the maximum loan amount is $1 million, okay? So the bank's risk is really minimized. So next slide. So let me say this. So you have the PPP, one, if you haven't applied before, and you can get up to $10 million. PPP two, you've applied, but now you get to apply again and you can get up to $2 million, okay? EIDL, depending on where you're located, you can get an EIDL grant. 4, if you've applied, if you already have an EIDL, you can reapply for an EIDL and get an increase, okay? 5, if you have a 7A, 504, or microloan, you get up to 3 months of principal and interest payment paid on your behalf to the bank by the SBA. 6, if you get a new 7A microloan or SBA Express, then the SBA is going to make the first 6 months of principal and interest payments on that loan for you. 7, which is not on these slides, you have state and local government grant and loan programs. So I have just counted 7 ways in which businesses in the DMV have a way to grow. Yes, there are businesses that are growing during this pandemic. So you have money to grow and money to sustain your businesses through this pandemic, okay? Actually go to the next slide because we've talked about, you know, the additions. All right, so actually there's going to be more to come out on this probably at 4 o'clock today, and I will send it out to Margie so she can post it because there's more detailed information. I only had a chance to glance at it just before I came on this morning. But I was told that there's going to be an announcement at 4 o'clock today to give you more details about this grant program for live event operators, okay? So, live event operators, who do they include? Movie theaters, concert halls, you know, the jazz club, Broadway play venues, comedy clubs, right, the improv, museums, or other venues that charge ticket admissions for an event. All right, so you must have been in operation on February 29, 2020 with less than 500 full-time employees. And again, a 25% reduction in revenues in at least 1 quarter in 2020. Well, I think most of these venues can show at least a 25% drop, right? Because they've been closed. So they can certainly show that 5% reduction. The grant amount is 45% of 2019 annual revenues if it existed before 2019, or 6 months of average revenues in 2019 if it existed after January 1st, 2019. You cannot have received a PPP loan, what's the date, the 28th? All right, so as of December 26th, a month ago, as of December 26, 2020. The grant money is used the same as the PPP, right? 60-40. But again, they have expanded, that expanded 40% is, and it includes marketing, ads, staging, and other event, you know, expenses. There is a fixed coverage period of March 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021. And there'll be supplemental grants to be available extended through June 30th, 2022 at 50% of the original grant. Now, like I said before, there's going to be more granular information that comes out about this. There's going to be, I think, a press release at 4 o'clock. I'll get over to Margie the granular information so that she can post it on the website for all of you to see. All right, next slide, please. And this should be, all right, so for those of you that like to read at night, as I've stated before, the Act is 5,600 pages. What we've done here is by topic tell you what page to go to in the actual bill. So if you want to know about the PPP tax treatment, you can go to page 2004. If you want to go to the changes for the 7A loan program, you go to page 2164. And if you want to know about targeted EIDL grants, you really want to get into the granular details, then it's on page 2184. Okay, so have fun reading this stuff. Next page, please. All right, so here's where you can get additional help. And as I started out before, the business centers, the small business development centers, SCORE, your chambers of commerce, okay, is where you can get additional help. For the Office of Disaster Assistance, you have the email there and the 1-800 number, and you have, you know, the links for all the programs, PPP, EIDL, debt relief. You have the links there. Okay, next. Next slide. And actually,
was there another slide? Sorry.
but that's, you know what, but that's okay, because now we can open it up. And where's my buddy from the WBC? Is she still out there?
Morgan?
Yeah, I'm still here.
You're still there? Okay,
Yes.
so you want to, so tell us about the Women Business Center.
Yes, thank you. And that was a great presentation. I've seen a few, but yours is definitely up at the top. You're number one. So thank you. Yeah. So Morgan Wortham, I'm the newer managing director for the Maryland Women's Business Center. We, of course, cover the Capital Region in Maryland, so Frederick, Prince George's, and Montgomery County. Although our services are geared towards women, small business owners, and entrepreneurs, we are open and do serve any and everyone. Most of our services are free. We can help clients with walking through some of these steps with our one-on-one business counselors. They're available to meet remotely, by phone, by Zoom meeting, to help anyone. We also are trying to keep up with the information and offer group trainings and workshops as we do hear more things about PPP. And we, of course, offer general workshops to help our clients with their business plans. Of course, financials are a big piece right now. And then we also have access to a number of pro bono resources, accounting, legal, any of the other things that would help our businesses to be successful. And we're just here to serve the small businesses in our region, to help them scale and sustain and grow. So thank you so much, Margie, for having us co-sponsor this, and to Rod. Hopefully we'll continue to partner. And also we partner with the SBDC, SCORE, the other small business entities in our region, to make sure that we are all on the same page in helping small businesses.
Excellent, thank you. We have some questions in the chat. Can we go through those real quick?
All right, so let me choose one just to get us started.
Go ahead.
So the client needs a new computer hardware, but remember that the money is to be used for software, right? So yeah, you can use the money for software, but not the hardware, which honestly, this is an editorial. It seems silly to me, because you need the hardware in order to run the software, but it says software, okay? So it's the software that's the allowable expense, not the hardware. Then there's a question about, well, suppose we have two equal owners in the business, okay, 50-50 is what I'm assuming. And I mentioned that they have to sign off on, you know, the income statement. Well, you know what? Both of you sign off on the income statement before you submit it to the bank. And yes, the slides are going to be available.
Yes, the slides are going to be on our website, and we can send them out to everyone that's on this call. Okay. There was another question that I saw that was our local bank has postponed and delayed the application for forgiveness as they are prioritizing the PPP 2.0. If we got our PPP 1.0 loan in April, when do we need to file for forgiveness?
Oh my gosh, they're not you know what? I put my email in the chat, so we won't blast who that bank is. So just go ahead and email me, please, so I can give a call to that bank. Okay, because that's not supposed to be happening.
Okay. Did you answer this one yet about the daycare center?
Oh no, what's the Daycare center.
We own a daycare center, and we were about to operate on March 2020. We could not operate due to the pandemic. We have a SBA loan and still make payments to the bank and landlord and maintenance. Which program can we apply for?
Well, all right, so if you have an SBA, I'm assuming you have an SBA 7A. I'm going to assume that. So you're supposed to be, the way the act reads, you're supposed to automatically be enrolled. So if you have a 7A, 504, or microloan, you're supposed to be automatically enrolled. But I would actually call the bank to make sure that that has been done so that you can get relief on that loan, okay?
I would also like to add, I didn't specifically mention that we do have a childcare industry program, since childcare businesses are primarily female owned. So I would tell that individual also to contact us, and I put my email in the chat, and I'll put our phone number too. We have 2 business counselors specifically helping childcare business owners, especially the home-based ones, navigate through other resources available right now for childcare centers.
Yeah, you know, reach out to Morgan, because she has all the resources that are there to help. And it's not only for women. I mean, they help men as well. So reach out to Morgan. Okay, Aaron, is EIDL still capped at 150,000?
Yes, it is.
Ooh, no, it's reality. Any chance they're going to increase it at some point?
I don't think so. There was talk, look, there was talk that they were going to reinstate the $2 million maximum, but then when the bill actually came out, it's capped at 150,000.
All right, it is what it is. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Oh, here's one more. I got approved from the SBA for draw 2. My bank has sent me an email saying that. How long do they have to disperse the money to me? It has been 7 days since the SBA approved my loan and assigned me an SBA loan number.
All right, so here's what's going on behind the scenes. So I'm sure all of you have read about the fraud that was going on in both EIDL and PPP. Unfortunately, I read about them I see it every day, because the SBA actually keeps track, and they send it to us to let us know how rampant the fraud is, okay? So what the SBA is doing now is, behind the scenes, they're doing all the verification checks, okay? Your EIN number matches up. They check hopefully you're giving your business checking account, because one of the things that we found was that there were personal checking account and what do you call it, ABA numbers or routing numbers, right, given instead of the business checking account and routing number, okay? So now the SBA, in short, is just going through all the verification of the information before the bank is given the SBA number to then disperse. So that's really the holdup, okay? So it can take, 7 to 10 days before you actually get the disbursement of the money into your account. It's just the SBA being more careful now, okay? So that we can help cut down on the fraud.
Okay, I know you have 5 more minutes, so 2 more questions. The easy form is now applicable to 150,000 and below loans, but for the full-time employee calculations still seem to apply. Do the FTE calculations still need to be done insured for loans over 50,000 and below 150,000?
Oh yeah, yes.
Okay, how long until the SBA provides approval for the PPP 1 forgiveness once they receive it?
All right, so here's the timeline. So you submit it to your bank. Your bank has 60 days to review it, okay? The bank will give you a preliminary, and I underline the word preliminary, answer to say, okay, it looks like it's going to be, we'll say 100% forgiven. Then they send it over to the SBA. The SBA has 90 days to review, okay, your application. Then the SBA will give, the answer, yes, it's 100%, 50%, 40%, okay, approved. They'll let the bank know that, and then the bank gives you the final determination on that. Now, here's a little glitch. So if your loan was $2 million and over up to the 10 million, there's, I'll call it an additional audit that's going to be done. What I'm trying to get the answer to is, okay, so if that company is being audited by us, then will the audit take place within the 90 days, right? Or will it take a little more time for the audit to be complete? And then what is that time frame? So I'm still trying internally to get the answer to that question. So I just wanted to put it out there in case there are those of you out there that got a loan that's 2 million up to 10 million.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
Okay, I think that's all set.
Please, if you have not applied for the first or second draw, please get your paperwork together and apply, okay? Because I do think the money is going to go pretty quickly. If you remember the first round, the money went pretty quickly, and then we had to get another appropriation of money, which took us up to, I think, about 660 billion, but the program was only extended until August 10th. So actually 525 billion was actually put out on the street. Also remember that 87% of that 525 billion, the loans were $150,000 and below. Hence, you had to change in the forgiveness form of 150,000 and below. And it really should be, a quick exercise for you. But again, you have a lot of help from the chambers and the WBCs and the VBOCs and the SBDCs to help you through that process, the forgiveness and the first and second draw process.
One more.
Somebody blasted who the bank is, but okay, I see it.
One more. Wouldn't the SBA have done that before assigning me a loan number and approving my loan? Per my bank, SBA has already reviewed and approved. This is a bank issue. How long does the bank have to issue a promissory note?
All right, so they're saying that we've already issued the SBA number.
Yeah.
And all right, so it's a bank issue.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I think, gosh, I'm getting old, folks. All right, so the first time I think they had 10 days. I think they had 10 days to disperse. But I don't remember reading anything in this bill that gave them a specific date that they had to disperse. But I'd like to think that it would still be, within that 7 to 10 day window that they should be able to give you a promissory note to sign. Unless the bank is really just that backed up, okay? But I think a reasonable time is 7 to 10 days.
Okay. One more. We are still trying to determine if we should apply for PPP2 based on forgiveness. It sounds like the forgiveness will not be known before the deadline for PP2, correct?
They have not applied for forgiveness, one, right? Is that right?
Well, they're still trying to determine if they should apply for PP2 based on forgiveness. It sounds like the forgiveness will not be known before the deadline for the PP2.
Okay, so they've applied for the forgiveness, okay, is what they're saying. They've applied for the forgiveness. They won't know if they've been forgiven 100% or not, right? I don't see any reason why they shouldn't go ahead and apply for the PPP2. They can. There's nothing stopping them from doing that.
Well, they want to make sure they get forgiveness before they apply for the PP2.
Look, apply for the money, okay? If you need the money, apply for the money. It shouldn't be contingent upon whether or not you get 100% forgiven or not. And look at it this way. Even if 100% of it is not forgiven, it's a 1% loan, okay? It's 1% over a 2 or 5 year period, depending on if you got it before June 5th, 2020 or after June 5th, 2020. right? That determines if it's a 2 or 5 year loan, but it's at 1%. Can you imagine? Never in my lifetime, and I'm an old guy, okay? I've never seen a commercial loan at 1% in my lifetime, okay? So even if it's just 80% forgiven and you have, let's just say a loan of $10,000 you have to pay at 1%, okay, I'll take that.
What's this percent after June 2020?
Huh? After June? Oh, you mean it's still 1%, but it's the if you will, the repayment is 5 years. Prior to June 5th, 2020 was 2 years.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I have in the chat. And I know you have to jump on another call. So thank you so much. I will be sending these slides to all of you right after this presentation, and it will be up on our chamber website. When you go to COVID resources, everything that's happening is on that page. So we keep that up to date daily. So when the announcement comes up at 4 o'clock today, we'll have that information up there. So always check our website. And again, Rod, thank you for being my superstar here and our partner for over the years. I really appreciate our partnership, and he's so busy now. All the other chambers want him, and he's mine. I heard you said that to him. It's like, I got you first. But anyway, thank you so much for the partnership, and I want to thank Morgan so much. If anyone wants to save the chat, if you go to where it says "to" in the name, click those 3 little dots to the right, and you can hit Save Chat. Okay, so that way you'll have everybody's contact information and any questions you might want to review. Okay, again, Aaron from Aaronson's, thank you for always being a partner. Morgan, again, thank you so much. Please go visit the Maryland Women Business Center's website for more information and give Morgan a call. We all work together really well. So if we don't know, we know who does know, right? So
Yes.
thank you, everybody. And Rod, enjoy the rest of your day. And please think about a vacation.
Yes, you're right. All right. Probably see you in 2 weeks, guys, with more updated information.
Thank you so much.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rod.
Bye-bye.